one-way ticket, never boring. Here we go with JAKPA Stories.
Welcome to another episode of JAKPA Stories. Today on the episode, I have another exciting guest, which I would love you guys to meet. If you would introduce yourself, how would you introduce yourself to those who don't know you?
Oh, yeah, that's a really great question. I just want to thank you, Divine, for inviting me over to your podcast. I really appreciate it.
Uh,
So, if I were to introduce myself, I'll start by saying, hi, everyone. My name is Amara, and professionally, I work as a HR business partner right now with the Government of Alberta. But I believe that everybody is, besides your professional career, you're called to do something. I believe I'm called to give back to the community, especially our community, by sharing my stories and trying to make their life a little bit easier than what I had to go through.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Welcome to JAKPA Stories, Amara.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of folks that are applying to companies,
Yeah.
most people would have a lot of questions for you. And I'm going to help them to do justice to those questions today.
Am I safe?
You're very safe. Um, but welcome to JAKPA Stories.
Yes.
When you hear the word JAKPA, what does that mean to you?
I'm chuckling because it's kind of like is a popular balance and it's been trending lately. So the thing that comes to me is that you're trying to escape. Like just, if I had to use one word.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I would say JAKPA is, basically immigration, like or relocation. When an individual like myself moves from one country to another,
Okay.
in my particular case, I'll say for a better life.
I like that.
And so that's what JAKPA means to me, to make a better life somewhere other than your home country.
Make a better life somewhere other than your home country. So,
So sorry, let me rephrase. Yeah, so to relocate to a new country,
yeah,
it can either be, it can be going back to your home country. Now that I think of it, not just making a better life somewhere else, because I know there's also been cases now where there's been the whole talk of reverse jackpot, where some people are actually relocating back to their home country from countries like
that's
Canada and the US.
yeah,
Yes.
that's very true.
Yeah.
And we try to keep things balanced, right? Because
Yes.
a lot of times when folks hear about immigration, it's always okay. Maybe you're moving from Africa to different countries, whether
Yes.
it's Canada or UK or the US or Australia. But
Yes.
like you rightly said, there's a lot of backward movement
True.
from North America and also Europe back to Africa or back to Nigeria or back to Cameroon or different
Sure.
countries. So I like the fact that you called that out because
Yes.
it's also a trend of its own,
It
right?
is.
So to you it means immigrating, to you it means moving from one country to another. I think the key thing that stood out for me was
Yeah.
moving to make life better somehow,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So whether you're moving from um, Nigeria to Canada or US or from any other African country, or
Yeah.
you're moving the other way around from these countries back to the home country,
Yeah.
it's all about moving to make life better.
Most times, for the most
Okay,
part, I think so.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Now, so for those who don't know where you're originally from,
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm originally from Nigeria.
okay,
If anybody's familiar with Nigeria, we also have tribes. So I'm originally Igbo first, and then Nigerian. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So you're actually my sister.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, most
My
most people
my
most
Igbo
people find it
brother.
a
One
bit
name.
confusing.
Kedu.
Yes, it will one name why. So a lot of people find it confusing because I have a lot of Cameroonian friends. I have
Yeah.
history with Cameroon. I have history with Nigeria, then the States, and then Canada as well. So I'm just a little bit everywhere.
Oh, nice.
But
United Nations. Yeah.
yeah. So, um, so when did you move to Canada?
Oh yeah, a long time ago. So about 11 years ago now. So
Oh,
next year, January, will actually make it exactly 11 years. I moved
interesting.
to Canada. Still remember, although it feels like not too long ago. I'm sure you understand. So I moved in 2014, January 2014, peak of winter, and I know they had
Oh,
a really terrible winter that time. And when I landed, they're like, "Just what a time to choose to relocate to Canada,
yeah.
eh? With this weather."
So was it through school that you came, or you just woke up one day and you're like, you know what, I'm fed up with this country and I need to fly to Canada? Because I mean, back in
Yeah,
2014,
yeah,
I mean, there were people immigrating, but probably not a lot like the influx from like 2016, 2017, 2018.
yes, that batch.
Yeah. So
I
so
agree.
would you say you actually jackpot back then, or
So it's not called jackpot. We jackpot before
I don't know. I've
2016.
heard different versions.
True, true. Touche. So fair enough. So I'll tell you a little bit of my story. So like I said, I relocated in 2014, but prior to that, I lived most of my life in Nigeria.
Okay.
Like primary, secondary school. I think we kind of talked a little bit before we started this session. So my primary, my secondary school was in Nigeria, as well as my university. I actually went to the University of Benin
Okay.
in Edo State. So I did my Bachelor's of Arts degree there, 4-year course, which obviously went a little over, even though Nigerian
Yeah.
school systems, there was a
With
little bit of strikes.
strikes and everything.
Yeah, so I concluded my bachelor's degree, thankfully, and shortly afterwards I did my youth service. I actually was posted all the way to Ekiti State. I've never been there
Oh,
before in my
okay.
life, and
And was it also like your bachelor's, was it an HR related course that you
no,
studied,
it was an
or
arts though,
oh,
but
arts?
bachelor's of
Okay.
arts, but it was in linguistics. So, which for people who
Got
don't know,
it.
was a science, is the study of the science of languages.
Okay.
But funny story, I never knew I was gonna land in that course. You know how it is. You're Nigerian, when in the Nigerian
It's
household, it's either you're going for medicine or law. Like if you're in the arts line, is this
yeah,
girl, you're gonna be a lawyer,
medicine, law, or
engineering.
engineering.
Yeah, my dad was
It's got
actually
to
an
be one
engineer.
of them.
Yes, if not,
Yeah.
probably studied anything. So I actually initially wanted to study law, but you
Okay.
know how it is, jam scores. My jam score was pretty good, but it was in my set they introduced something called a post UME,
Okay.
where you
Okay.
had to take another exam in the university of your choice. And then they had another grading system where if you didn't hit maybe
A
over
particular cutoff.
150, if you didn't hit the cutoff,
Yeah.
they'll give you another course, or not your
So like, so
choice
trying to
course.
make that particular course competitive,
Yeah, it
right?
was already
So
competitive,
yeah,
but they were trying to look for more ways to screen
to
people
screen people
out, I
out.
guess. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
So
for those who don't know what Amara is talking about, so it's very similar to how you get admitted into college or university here, but the difference is you get that admission through another body that actually grants admissions into different colleges and universities. Um, and then when you get that particular cutoff, you go to the university and they give you another exam because they want to make sure only those who are like super qualified for the course can actually take it.
exactly. Basically, I kind of landed in, the Bachelor's of Arts and Linguistics, and then I
Okay.
got through the program. And shortly after the program, I went for something called the youth service. So maybe I'll explain this a little bit too. So in Nigeria, we have this thing that was enacted by the government,
Yeah.
where after you finish your 4-year or 5-year degree, or even 6-year degree in the case of our medical counterparts, you have to go do something they call serving your country, and it's called the National Youth Service Corps.
Yeah.
And it's for 1 year. It's a 1-year posting, and the idea is they want to post you somewhere in another part of Nigeria that you've never lived in or you didn't go to school in, so you can experience another side of the country or experience their culture and give back in that way.
Yeah.
So for me, after university, we had something called a call up, where the call up will tell you, the call up letter will now tell you where you are getting posted to. So at the time I got posted to Ekiti State, it's somewhere in the western part of Nigeria,
Yeah.
and I served there
And that
for,
was your first time
and that was my first
there.
time there, and
Okay.
it
Did
was
you
that
did
was
you
another
enjoy it,
experience
or
on its own. Topic for another day. At first, I wasn't enthused that I got there because, to be honest, you know how it is. Everybody's hoping you get Lagos,
oh
Abuja,
yeah, the
or
big
Port Harcourt, the big
cities.
cities.
Yep.
Exactly. I was actually aiming for Lagos, and then they're like, "Okay, maybe Lagos is too full. We're gonna put you next
And what
because
part of
Ekiti
the
is not
country
too
was
far."
your school?
my school was in Edo State,
Okay,
so
okay. So
yeah,
Uniben,
yeah,
shout out to all the Uniben folks, which
yes,
is not, I mean, that's not too far
yes.
from Ekiti, right?
It's like because I remember I left from Delta State when I was going because I grew up in Delta State in
Okay.
Warri to be specific. So I remember because it was not such a popular state, they didn't even have one of all those those popular public transit companies that go there. So you had
Yeah.
to go to some random bus park. Like I don't want to go into the details, but he understands where
Where
I'm coming from.
they load you up and like
and
take you there.
you're not too sure whether the bus is gonna get you
Yep.
there. I have stories. So anyway, eventually I got there, and I at first I wasn't enthused. Like I said, went through the youth service camp. We also have a camp that lasts for like 3 weeks,
Yeah.
where you have some paramilitary training infused in there.
Oh, those are you're taking me back memory lane.
Oh
Like
yeah, I didn't.
that's really I mean now that you're saying it, I'm just remembering all of that.
Yeah, intense. Can't believe I got through that. But anyway, it was fun now that you look back, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like fun memories. And then I stayed there for a year. It was actually a nice learning experience, right? And then I got to meet a lot of good people. The great thing with youth service is, in as much as you could be posted to some of those remote areas, the fact that you're not the only one, you're not in it alone.
Yeah.
There's thousands of people like yourself, young folks too, who just graduated, who get posted there as well. So I think the biggest thing I got away from that posting was the people I got to connect with, right? People from so many universities, so many
Yeah.
bright minds, so many people doing really great things. And I still keep in touch with some of them till today. So, which is amazing. So I think that's the only reason why I would say that posting or the youth service thing was still
It
relevant.
was a
And
good
then it gave
experience.
you your first shot at like employment as well,
Sure.
because I remember I got posted to a school there to teach English.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that helped to like kind of have that was my first experience, like job wise,
Yeah. Oh, that's
thanks to
pretty
the youth
good.
service. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of folks that I had the opportunity to serve with,
Mhm.
I still keep in touch with a handful of them.
Yes.
And, like you said, you actually make a lot of good relationships,
Hmm.
genuine friends that you
Hmm.
connect with them on different levels,
Levels.
right? You guys are probably in a location where no one is happy with or used to, but you just
Yes.
find a way to just, keep things going for that 1 year. And then
Yes.
after that, folks can go become whoever they want to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
You've taken me back memory lane. That's
Yeah.
that's actually good.
Yeah, we kind of called it the trenches then.
The trenches. Yeah, I remember one of our guests actually used that word. She was like, "Oh, Jackpot means living the trenches." I'm like, "They're gonna come for you."
Yeah.
So when exactly so you moved here
No,
2014?
yeah, so let me get. I think I didn't even conclude my how I
Okay.
now got here. So after youth service, I now went back home. So like I said, back home was like in terms of where I lived. My parents lived in Warri, like in
Okay.
more affluent access, in Delta State.
Yeah.
And so I went back home and I was looking for a job. So like that's the very next step. I'm looking for a job, sending out applications, and for people who don't know Nigeria well enough, like we said earlier, like there are some big cities in Nigeria where like all the companies kind of are at, where the jobs are, businesses, which
Yeah.
is Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. And Warri is not really one of them. It was popular because of it was where a lot of the oil companies were, and
Yeah.
that's what brought my parents ultimately there. My dad was in Nigeria, like I mentioned, so he worked in an NMPC at the time, like when I was younger, and my mom worked in a college out there called the Petroleum Training Institute. So
Okay.
that was
Yeah, I know
basically
that.
what brought us, to
To
Delta
worry.
State and
Yeah.
Warri, right? So going back home after school, I was throwing out applications and maybe hoping to also land my old company job. And it was a thing back then.
It
Everybody
it,
was always
it
aiming.
was it was a serious trend. It's
Yes.
almost like once you get out of school and then
Yeah.
you think about like the top jobs to focus on.
Yes.
Either you're getting into working in a bank or an oil company, or
The
if you're
government.
very connected, then
The government.
yeah.
It's true. So I tried, it didn't work out. Like I didn't get any job that I wanted. And it got so bad that I had to get a job with like because I also was like bored of being at home. It's like you
Yeah.
went to school, like you're not supposed to be home. So I eventually got like a gig working somewhat like a not-for-profit for a family friend's
Okay.
not-for-profit. But obviously I knew like I got it because I knew
You knew the
somebody.
person.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm better. It's not like I appreciated the man. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, I'm a graduate. Like I deserve
I
more.
deserve
I deserve a
more.
job that I want.
Yeah.
You get. So around that time, I started hearing about Canada. Somehow, I think my mom will come back from work. She'll say, "Oh, her colleagues were talking about Canada, or maybe one of them's kids is in
Oh,
Canada." Things like that. And then I think just before I graduated as well, I had this friend too who was also talking about doing her master's abroad or doing a postgraduate abroad. And her brother had told her about Canada. I think at the time her brother was in the UK. I also had a younger brother who was in the UK or who just came back actually from the UK studying his chemical engineering program. And I remember him saying, I think I asked him, because before then I told my parents, I was like, I think I gave myself 1 year post graduation, post youth service. And if I don't get like
a
a
job.
job, a
Yeah.
proper job, I would want to
And you
relocate to do
consider
like
it.
my post secondary education. And my parents were like, I really have great parents. And they were like, yeah, they'll support me anyways. Like, that's a good timeline. And then when my brother came back from the UK, was that time where the UK, you study in the UK, and once you're done, I think they give you just 3 months to do your graduation,
Yep.
and they're like,
And
bye,
thank you.
thank you, no thanks.
We
So
got your money and you got
exactly,
our education.
you got your education, so now pack your bag and
Yeah.
go. So I remember asking my brother about the UK because, like I said, I was just exploring. Like, if I don't get a job, I'm going to relocate to go study. And he's like, I wouldn't recommend the UK. Like, I'm back, right? Like,
Mm.
it was good education, but like, it's
And
not
he
in
was
terms
there
of.
for a
He was
year or
there
two
for
years or
almost three. So it was a degree program. So he was
okay.
there. He had a fast track degree. So I think he was there for just a little over 3 years. It was supposed to be a 4 year course, but he
Oh, got
did it
it.
shorter. But yeah, so he was like, I wouldn't recommend. So when he said that, so it made me like honing more on like
Yeah.
Canada and like start looking into options with Canada. And then that was
Okay.
how I really saw that, oh, it sounds like Canada is really good. They're friendly to immigrants. Along the line too, I had a brother-in-law who had visited Canada. He
Okay.
was also an engineer, and his company at the time had, he was one of those companies that sometimes sends him abroad for like either
And
trainings or
training and stuff.
posting or.
Okay.
So he came to Canada. He had gone to so many countries, and he said he remembered Canada was just really so. He landed in Calgary actually, and
Oh.
he was like, they were just so warm, so friendly, and everybody just kept on telling him, we have immigration programs. You can, look into it, and
Yeah.
if you want to really do it, immigrate. So he came back one of those days, and family gathering. We all welcomed him, and it's like telling us stories, and I'm like, oh, this Canada,
So
hey.
it's
Eh,
resonating.
is resonating as something. So I know this. I started looking at it a little bit deeper, and then I applied for admissions, and like this rest this day is
Oh
history. And
wow.
I landed in January. I was like, I want to start
And
the
was
new
it
year.
Calgary you came
So
to directly
unfortunately, I
or
didn't come to Calgary.
okay.
I was then I had the mindset of, like I said, I was also chatting with one of my other former schoolmates. So we're looking at schools together, and I'm also, at the time, I was this kind of person like, oh, I lived in a small city growing up. I want to explore big city life. So
Yeah.
I Googled, Canada, websites about Canada, the different provinces, and everybody was like, Toronto is the
Toronto.
hub, is the main city.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I looked up schools there, and then eventually I landed in Toronto in
Okay.
2014.
So Toronto 2014. And was that a 2 year course
So
or
yes, so initially started as a 1 year course. So at the
okay.
time, I looked one of the courses I applied for. Then I've always been like a talker. Like, I like talking from when I was younger. I think there's a point in life I was thinking I was going to be a journalist or like a broadcaster, but those dreams didn't come to fruition. So I think the next thing I thought of was, oh, I could do public relations. So when I was going through, because like I said, I was going through the schools, the websites, and I was looking through courses, and I was looking at the course details, and I was like, this looks like something, like an area that
You're
I will
thriving.
thrive in,
Yeah.
right? So I decided to apply for that. They asked, the preliminary stages, writing samples, all those things. I did it. And then I got the admission. So I did a postgraduate initially. It was supposed to be a 1 year course
Okay.
in public relations. And then after that first year, anybody who's schooled here, that, in order to stay back in the country, there's this thing where you have to, it's better to school longer,
Yeah.
because if you school 1 year, you get like a 1 year work permit,
Yeah.
postgraduate work permit, and then if you school 2 years or more, you get like 3 years
3.
work permit. So I felt like I had more to give me more time
Okay.
to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was ultimately to kind of stay back, right?
Yeah.
So after the public relations post grad, then I went back again, same school but different campus, to do the postgraduate in human resources management.
Okay.
So that's
So
how that came
first year and
about.
then second year was now human
So
resources.
yes,
And when you landed here, you said that was February
January
or
actually.
January. So
Yes,
that's like right,
peak of
in the
winter.
peak of winter and everything.
Yeah,
So landing here, was there like any culture shock? Like the moment you just got out of the plane or started connecting with folks, what would you remember as the first sort of culture shock that
shock.
you experienced?
Yeah, culture shock. Okay, I know the first one. I know that I don't think this is culture shock per se, but it
Yeah.
was when you said landing and coming out of the airport, like you said, peak of winter. It was just the kind of cold that just enveloped me.
Like
It
you
felt
got
like I was in
into
a
a
cold
freezer.
freezer, and it was such a contrast because you know how when you're in the airports, it's so warm.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing was I didn't really have any family here. So that was another thing. I was early 20s. I didn't have any family in Canada, and then landed in the airport in Toronto. But I did have to know how we Nigerians can be. Nigerians are everywhere. You know how they say this thing of if there's no Nigerian where you're going to, you
you,
might want to
you
rethink.
better run.
Yeah, that place is probably not favorable. Hey, so I kind of had there was someone who we used to live around the same area, neighborhoods were like family friends
Yeah.
who the kids had gone like 7 months or 8 months prior to my departure. So I reconnected with them, got a phone number. So I was supposed to like get to their place as my first stop,
So
before I
which was
start
like your soft
soft landing
landing.
in a way
Yeah.
and then find my way. So I remember, I think the first thing was, I think they were really nice at the airport. Besides the weather, I didn't have a phone to kind of, you know how it was back then. There was no 2014. There was no WhatsApp. I don't know if you remember.
Okay.
WhatsApp came afterwards. Even there was
Yeah.
no Uber either. So I couldn't connect with phones because by the time I'd already boarded the plane, my Nigerian line,
Num
like it might have still worked, but then I would have to pay. You know how
extra for
extra
roaming,
that
right?
roaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do that. So what
I
I
was
noticed was the
I
very
was I was I think one of her guests was sharing an experience where one of the students, I think someone that came from India
yeah.
and got a phone, and then just started making calls back home,
Oh my
international
god,
calls. And
the
at the end of
bill.
the month, the bill was like over $4,000 or so. And the dude was just like he never knew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, when he starts making calls, especially international calls,
Yeah.
that the bill just skyrockets.
Skyrockets. It
Yeah,
happened to me, but not that huge.
yeah.
Yeah. You actually brought back memories. That happened to me with Fido.
Uh,
But it wasn't up to 4K, but it was almost 1,000. I
wow.
remember having to call them and being like, I didn't know I'm a newcomer, but technically I really didn't know. And
It's in the terms and
that's
conditions.
what they were like, kind
Small
of.
print.
So they gave me a little discount, but of course you can never forget again. Like,
Yep.
that kind of mistake.
You would never,
I started
never
buying
make
calling
it.
cards. So I told you, like, then there was no WhatsApp. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a long time ago, hey? So I would say the first thing I noticed was Canadians were really warm. Like I said, in
Yeah.
the airport that day, I didn't want to call my Nigerian line because I knew about the roaming from Nigeria. And then I just met some man who I think he was there to pick up someone, a Canadian, and I'm like, oh, I just arrived. I need help. I need to get in contact with the person I'm supposed to be at their place to know if they're home. And I just
Yeah.
said, explain, and I'm a student. He's like, oh, no worries. And then he gives me his phone, and then I call the first person didn't pick up. I'm like, Jesus, like, please pick your phone. So
See, not
eventually,
not
not
right now.
today. So he finally picked and said he was in class, but yeah, he confirmed the directions and that they'll be home soon. So that was how I was able to get. The culture shock was transportation was so expensive from the airport, and like I said, the moment I came out, it was so cold,
Yeah.
and I just ran into like a taxi right away,
Oh,
and I mistakenly entered one of those. You know how the airport has different credits.
different. Yep.
So it was one of those ones with the luxury cars, but because I was just like, take me to this.
Oh my
I want to
God.
get out of this cold. Just take me to this direction. And yeah, and then that was when my reality check of like when I saw the charge at the end of the trip, I know how it reads based on
Yep.
distance. I was like, this place is kind of expensive. Hey. But thankfully I had some cash on me. But then I would say another culture shock for sure was how in Nigeria we're very big on respect.
Yep.
So it's like back home you're greeting your elders, you're like saying sir, ma'am.
Ma-
So I remember going to like one of my first classes in school, and I think I was telling the man like, sir, this is, or good morning sir. He's like, no, don't call me sir. Like I think borderline felt like
he was too old.
insulted in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah, and I'm like, I
Why
was
you
just
why
trying
you
to,
calling me
sir,
sir?
And I'm like, yeah, why are you calling me sir? And I was like, oh my God, is it bad? And I think later on he's like, no, just call me by my name. Like
Yeah.
my name is fine. My name. And I know I struggled with that for a long time. It's like there's a lump. Anytime I was about to say maybe his name is like random, let's say maybe Scott. I
Yeah.
struggle. I was like, Miss. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, hi Scott. So that was a
'Cause
big
you don't want to
culture
sound disrespectful, but you
respectful
don't know like calling him sir is actually making him feel old and
older.
making him feel like he doesn't, he doesn't belong to you.
Yeah, so obviously down the line, I got to understand why he was like kind of reluctant. Like some people, you say that to them, they just smile.
Yeah.
They just know that you're new at that time. But he like took offense to it.
Yeah. So for
I
those of
think
you
you're
out
right.
there, that's a huge one that
Yeah,
Amara just shared.
yeah,
You know, I know it's a sign of respect from wherever you're coming from. Like, good morning, sir. Good morning, ma.
mm,
Don't go call, a mid 40-year-old lady ma. She doesn't want to hear that. Call her by her first name because she
mm.
doesn't want to feel old. Same thing. Don't call him sir. He wants you to call him by his first name. And it's very tough for a lot of folks to adjust to that, right?
Yes,
Because something you're used to all your life,
yes,
and then all of a sudden you're like, this thing which I knew is correct, now someone is telling me not to do it because
yes,
they find it offensive when I say that.
yes,
So tell me about life as a student. um
yeah.
was there a lot of struggle, or I know for a lot of folks, they get admission into college, they're coming in with the hope that if they can just pay the first school fees,
Mm.
or if their parents can just pay the first, then they have all of these fantastic dreams of, oh no, I'm going to work, maybe two jobs as a student, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to start sending some money back home and stuff like that. What was your experience as a student?
I'll say I was one of the fortunate ones because, like I said, like I came from a somewhat comfortable family, and
Okay.
when I made the decision to move, like I told you, I think I gave them a year, and they're like, "Oh, we're supporting you full, like whatever you decide. If by that point you don't have a job, we'll support you financially, right?" So I'll say I had a soft landing in terms of that with like my
Okay.
parents, especially the first year I came in 2014. At that time, you know how the immigration laws changed. In 2014, international students could not work at all. Like that was the
Oh,
rule.
okay.
You could only work on campus. And I
Interesting.
don't know if you've schooled here, but how many jobs are there on
Yeah,
campus for
for the
international
number of
students
students that are,
that come in?
yeah,
So that was already like even on your visa, it was literally written on there that you can't work unless on campus. So
interesting.
I didn't even have that hope that I could get
You could
maybe
get
an
any
outside
job.
job or so. But luckily, like I said, my parents like fully supported me. They paid for my tuition,
Oh, that's good.
paid for my accommodation too because I couldn't even work that very first year. So that's why I said I'm one of the fortunate ones. But of course, I did
Your
see,
landing was too soft.
but I did see some of my like classmates struggle.
Struggling.
Right,
Yeah.
I see some of them trying to get under the table jobs, and because of that, they're missing
Yeah.
classes. I think that was another culture shock some of them had, where it's like with back home, for instance, I know even in schooling back home, you could afford to like coast on miss classes, no, for lack of a
Oh
better
yeah.
term, and just prepare for the final exams, and you could pass. But in Canada, it's slightly different. There's some marks you get for just attending
Attending
class. It's called
class.
attendance marks, where
Yeah.
the lecturers like mark when you're available,
And
and
the
then there's some
test as
tests
well.
they do leading up to the finals, and
Yeah.
some of those accumulate to almost 40% of your score. So I remember hearing of some people that failed out of school had to like redo it because they didn't pass eventually,
Yeah.
and it was because they were like hustling, right? Like they had to, some of them had to pay like their
Pay
remaining
bills
school
and
fees or
yeah.
send money back home. So it was hard. I saw it, but like I said, it wasn't my lived experience, and I'm glad, I'm fortunate that I didn't have to go through that. But
Yeah.
by year two, the immigration laws changed. You know how I told you I had second program,
Yeah.
so I was able to see, that was when they now said people, I think people had complained, and the government had a little bit, and like, okay, you guys can now work, but only for 20 hours,
Okay. Like
and
still
20
still
hours
rationing it
shouldn't it,
a
yeah.
bit.
And you can work 20 hours, but once school is off, you can work
40
the
hours.
full element, because I think
Okay.
the whole idea was so it doesn't conflict with your schooling, so it doesn't affect your study.
Yeah.
Because I know some people did impact them, but then again, that's topic for another day. Like, why are you really rationing it? Because local students, you don't ration their time, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. And the
Yeah.
thing is,
Yeah.
international students are paying way more than the
Yes.
local students.
Like times three. I was so surprised
And
when I found that out
yeah,
what the local
and
was
the
paying.
local students have the opportunity to work,
Yeah.
but international students just couldn't work. Anyways, we're not going into that.
There,
We
that's
don't make the
difference.
rules, we don't make the laws and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, your landing was quite soft.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was.
like smooth,
No, no,
smooth.
I wouldn't say there are other challenges in life. Aside obviously like accommodate the money for tuition was taken
Yeah.
care of. But as human beings, there are other struggles like one could have
Well, what would
experienced.
you say was like the most challenging thing for
I'll
you
say
while going through school?
I think for me it was even the different learning style. Like if you've schooled in Nigeria versus
Yeah,
here, it was a little bit of a struggle too, adjusting to that. The whole like discussions in class, it wasn't a thing back home. It's like back home, it's like your lecturers are talking at you. And
yeah,
then if they ask you a question, you raise up your hand. But here it's interactive. And
very
like I said,
interactive.
there's tests leading up to. So if you're not pulling your weight initially, your final score might tank. Hey? So that was that. And then there was the whole idea of using your laptops all through. Back home, I don't think I saw a laptop until final year when I had my project. And they're like, oh, you have to type up your project, of which a lot of us did it with business centers. So, but here, their notebook was a laptop.
Yeah,
So I remember like struggle where I remember the first 6 months, I would literally carry my notes to class and carry the laptop and I write down on my notes and transfer it at home. And then after a while, I was like, this is not efficient.
yeah. It's like you're doing the work. That's
Doing
like
it the hard
double
way.
work. Yeah,
Yeah. So
there's a
so
lot
the
of
different
rework.
a lot of rework. And then I even faced a little bit of I'll say some racism as well in school
Oh,
system.
okay.
And I didn't even expect that, see that coming. I always felt, educational system, there's fairness, equity, depends on the work you
Yeah,
put into your assignments, the work you put into your exams is what you're gonna get back.
yeah.
So I didn't expect that like happening in an
Wow.
educational system, especially because I had this idealistic view coming from Nigeria to
Almost
Canada,
like you're
like the
going
land
to a
of milk and
perfect
honey society.
society.
Especially like I said,
Everything works.
yeah, and the way
Every
they sold the Canadian dream, then like it felt like a land of milk and honey.
yeah, yeah,
So it was actually even tough getting my first accommodation. Like I said, I came in the peak of winter, going to showings in like my lead I my eyelashes freezing. I had almost like frostbites. Like those
oh
are
man.
like you can't put those
No,
like can't
those are
quantify.
still
Those are
those are
still
still like
challenges, and then
very
you
tough
don't have your
challenges.
community. You don't have
Yeah,
your family. Like I came from somewhat of a close knit family. I remember when I first came, almost every Sunday, my parents like had like an appointment with me where they'll call me and
oh
talk to me.
yeah,
But even at that, like you don't have it. Like they're not here physically. Like
I
there's some
know
challenges you're going through. You don't want to tell them because you don't want to scare them.
exactly.
So yeah,
Because you're trying to put up that brave
that brave
face, and
face.
like I
Yeah.
got this, things are going well, but
Yes.
sometimes in those quiet moments you just pause and you're like, no, I miss family, I miss doing
Yes.
this or doing that.
That. Yes.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah.
Like just navigating through that. So at what point did you come to Calgary?
Oh, so I just moved to Calgary around COVID time, shortly after COVID,
Okay,
around 4 years ago now, almost
okay,
4 years ago.
so like
So
2021
I think it was
ish.
2022, 2023,
Okay,
2022, 2021, late 2021 actually. Yeah, sorry.
okay,
So
okay.
it's like 2022. Yeah. So
So
yeah, so what led, I'm sure you probably want to ask me why I moved, maybe?
yeah, no, I wanted to get into that. Like,
Yeah.
why the switch from Toronto to Calgary? Was
Mm-hmm.
it, like a job related thing, or, you
Yeah.
just because some people move for different reasons, right? Some
True.
people, for some folks is either family,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, they have more family in a particular city,
Mm-hmm.
because, here you want to build your community as much as possible.
True.
Um, you want to be close to where you have more folks that are reliable, whether it's family or it's friends. So
Mm-hmm.
for some people, if they're probably in a city where there's really no one there, or they don't
Yeah.
know a lot of people, then they want to move to other cities where
Mm-hmm.
they have folks that they can get more support and everything. So what was your reason? Was it work related, or was it just
So
change of environment or something?
yeah, so it was more family and change of environment. So
Okay.
Fast forward, what I didn't add was, you know how I said I had a brother-in-law who heard about Canada. I think kind of around the time I was also doing my research.
Yeah.
So his wife is my elder sister. So
Okay.
subsequently, after I moved, they moved as a family, but um, not fully. So some of them moved, like my sister and her kids. So they moved to Calgary actually. So and they've
Okay.
been living here too. Now maybe for a decade actually right now. So they moved like a year after
Interesting.
I moved. So I would visit them occasionally, maybe like during the festive period, like Christmas or New Year's. That
Okay.
was it, right? So fast forward, COVID happened,
Yeah.
and around 2020,
COVID
or
changed the game a lot.
changed the world. And that was the period. At the time, I was working at TD Bank. I was working HR at TD Bank, one of the big fours in Canada. And they made that announcement, like with many other companies, where we had to start working remotely
Yeah.
because of COVID. And I was working remotely at the time. I was staying in this apartment in Toronto. I did have one flatmate at the time, but you know how COVID time was, like you weren't going out as much. So it really gave you time to sit back and reflect and
Yeah.
like think what you want with your life or what's the next step. So along the line, there was a time I was really down. I think I was really kind of either homesick or I just really wanted to be around family. And I just thought to myself, like, hey, we can work remotely. Why do I feel trapped here? And Toronto took the whole COVID thing extreme. I don't want to say extreme, but because it's such a popular city,
Yeah.
right? They were trying to be really safe, so they wouldn't let you. You could go to restaurants. I thought you couldn't sit in the restaurants. You could only just go pick up. Even in the parks, that you had to maintain the safe
Social
distance, social
distance.
distancing. So it was just, I was like, and I remember, like I said, fast rewind back to why I moved. I was like, I wanted to come to a big city, right?
Mm,
Okay, I've experienced it now for about 7 years, and now with the COVID, it was losing its appeal to me, and I
yeah.
just felt like I needed to be closer to family. And I was like, okay, now I have the opportunity to work remotely. Why don't I just pack up my laptop? I have a sister in Calgary.
Yeah.
Go stay at hers, like, work from there, right?
And be close to family.
Yeah. So at the time, I didn't even really think of moving. I just said, let me just go work from there, right?
Okay.
So I bought a one-way ticket to Calgary. After that, I had that thought like the next day or two. And then I went to Calgary. And I was in Calgary, and this was like summertime, June, July. And I remember like it was just really nice being around family again. And then outside of that, Calgary wasn't as strict with their restrictions. I remember that same year they even had the Calgary Stampede. I was like, oh my God, I'm liking this. What's going on here? I like it. It's like not too bad. I like it.
It was
So
almost like Calgary broke a lot of COVID rules.
I don't know. I didn't
They were
say that.
just everybody was just like, you know what, the word is now coming to an
And
end.
like, and I think at that point we had
Let's
COVID
relax
now for
things a
almost
little
a
bit.
year. Like it
Yeah,
was getting to a year or more. Then, so we're trying to relax.
especially back then when you hear, one some folks were taking the vaccine, some others were not.
Weren't. Oh
Just
boy,
different controversial topics going on and discussions. And
it
at some
was
point, some people were just like, you know what, I'm going out there, I'm going to have a good time.
yes,
You know, you only live once.
exactly YOLO.
Yellow.
So that was how I was in Calgary. I was enjoying my time here, and then fast forward a couple of months later, my company had their semi-return to work mandate where
Back
they're
to
like,
office.
oh, now we want people to start coming back, but hybrid, right? So a couple of days, 2 days in the office and 3 days from home. And here I was in Calgary. So had to call, I quickly like set up a call with my manager, and I'm like, hey, um, since COVID kind of happened, there was a point, that awkward conversation.
Yep, very
Uh,
awkward.
I've been in I've been in Calgary for a little bit. I just made it sound like it was just last month, but with this whole return to work mind, is there any workaround or
Yeah.
because I'm currently in Calgary? And he's like, really? And he's like, it means you have to make a decision, right? Like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Like you have to make a decision between your job and like he put it that
No, he
way.
didn't put it that. You know how they talk. They're
Yeah,
like,
like it's you have to interpret it and
yeah. You have to read
like
between the
read
lines.
between the lines.
Yeah. So it's either you're coming back,
Yeah.
right? Doing the return to work
So it was almost like there was no flexibility around it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
at that point, you had been with the company for how long?
Almost 5 years. So like
Oh,
4 years and like maybe 9 months or so.
yeah.
4 years and 7 months at the time.
Yeah, that's quite some time to like have some flexibility around certain things. And you were doing HR then as well.
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
was. So then, when they said that, I definitely got the message, and I told him I'll get back to him, and eventually, so I think I took a little, like a week or so or two at that time.
Okay.
Before I had the meeting with him, I kind of been applying, like just throwing out applications because I think I thought it might get to. I think at first I was thinking, not thinking, I was thinking maybe I could transfer, but I remembered, I'm in HR as well. We don't really have a transfer policy
Okay.
within the company at the time, especially because I was working in HR, and HR is usually in the corporate offices,
Yeah.
and TD doesn't really have a corporate office in Canada, in Calgary. Sorry, our corporate offices at the time were in
Toronto.
Toronto, Vancouver, and I think Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah. So unless I
Mm.
was now trying to, so the advice we usually give then was, try and get another job in, maybe the location
The
where you
location.
are,
Okay.
and then they give you the offer, and then technically you're still with the company.
Okay.
But like I said, for me, it was now limited options because there wasn't really corporate offices here.
So
So
so for most of the folks that work in HR,
yeah,
like so most of them would either have to be in one of these cities.
yes,
Um, so for those who are more like local in Calgary and all that, um, they're not really going to have like HR, partners in that particular city. It has to be like different departments, but nothing HR related.
I don't think they might be skeletal, but
Okay.
for the most part, like
Everything
it's not
goes back to
concentrated.
corporate.
It's more centralized. Like that
Yeah.
was the way our structure
Okay.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course they will have like management staff, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere, like even in the branches, they do have management staff
Okay.
besides financial advisors. So I know some people used to pivot that way, where because in HR sometimes you have some of those managerial skills because you help
You've,
oversee employees and things
yeah.
like that. So that's another area some people explore. Um, so yeah, so I now had to make a decision. Around that time, I was kind of applying aggressively. Then I got a job with this. It was a company in Toronto at the time. Was like a recruiting agency, but they were operating a remote first kind of model.
Oh.
So I was able to like get that job, and then obviously I put in my resignation with the other one. So because I had not been without a job for a while, so I didn't like the idea of moving to Calgary, even though I really liked Calgary
Yeah.
and not having anything. So I used that more like a
Like a transition
transition
kind of.
job.
Okay.
Exactly. So then I was with that company. So I now finally just went back to, because I had to go back to Toronto, put in my resignation, give my laptop in, and then pack up. Because I kind of decided because
So
I'd
you're
stayed, I was
moving
gonna move
at
here
that
in
point.
Calgary because
Okay.
I really liked it, and at the time I'd stayed here 3 months before the whole return to work mandate, and I was really enjoying it. I was like, oh, so I think there's something about like I was missing, right? That I was
Yeah.
now getting in Calgary. And I really liked obviously the affordability. The people were a lot warmer,
Yeah,
kinder.
especially during summer. I mean
And then
all
and then
year
I think the
round.
season too, because I remember, like I said, I used to come before, but
Yeah.
I didn't get the feeling I had the last time I came. I think it also had to do with the weather because whenever I came it was winter time. It was just like
Okay.
Christmas, New Year's, and you barely do anything during that time. It's just
Yeah.
you're just indoors, church,
Yeah, I think
the
folks
regular
folks are
things.
generally a lot nicer during summer.
Yeah, nice warm weather,
So
makes
the weather has a
makes
way
you
of
happy.
just making people happier,
Yeah.
and then with the
No, they
Calgary
said the
Stampede
winter
too and
blues.
everything. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, but so that's how you got to
So
Calgary
that's how I
and
moved. Yeah.
ah, nice.
Yeah.
So then, with family and everything,
That support system is
that's
important.
it
Yeah, it's key.
is. It is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like, most students and even most people that probably
Mm.
come in single as well,
Yes.
that is one area where, sometimes the way the system is set up or the way the society is,
Mm.
it's meant to make you function as an individual. It's meant to make you just mind your business, go
Yeah.
to work, come back,
Mm-hmm.
get in your house. Sometimes you probably don't even know your next door neighbor,
Oh my God, tell me about it. I'm falling into that trap gradually.
right? you know, just some little things that make you human and be part of the community. But the way this system is, it just makes everybody just want to mind your business, just focus on.
You're in
So
silos in a way, isolated.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
just being. isolated doing your stuff. So community is a big part
So
of it.
true.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. So um before I go to the next set of questions, I want to just make things light a little bit, but
Okay.
it's going to be within your within HR or the area where I think you have some expertise.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to ask you some questions, which is going to be a bit rapid, but just tell me the one that you prefer and
Okay.
why.
Okay. Which one I prefer and why? Okay.
Yeah,
So it's two options, kind of thing.
yeah. It's. I'm going to give you two options.
Okay.
Choose one of it, and then tell me why you prefer it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So the first one. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am. I'm like, what's it
Don't
gonna
worry, it's
be?
nothing
Yeah,
too.
that's all. Especially when you're like, are you ready? That's so dramatic.
All right. Full time or contractor?
What is this trick? Okay, full time.
Full time? Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Why full time?
So full time because of the stability, especially for the point of life where I am right now. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel like I could lose my job
Okay.
any other day. Although it's possible in full time, but it takes a little bit longer for that to, and you kind of might be seeing it coming.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is the benefits. Most times you get benefits when you're a full time employee.
Yeah.
With contract, they just pay you and that's it. There's no benefits like the health. When I say benefits, like health benefits, dental benefits if you have to get some dental work done, or if you have to have physiotherapy treatment, things like that, usually gets covered to a large extent if you have a medical insurance plan through your
Yeah.
employer. Yeah.
I like that because I think for a lot of folks that immigrate and come in,
Mm,
most of them, that's like one of the first situation that they get to face when it comes to the job market,
yeah.
right? So sometimes they apply for a job. It could be a full-time job, it could be a contract job.
Mm,
And you see people kind of, just being in that position where they don't know whether to go for a full-time job or whether
yeah.
to go for, a
Contract
a
job.
contract job, not a part-time.
Yeah.
Um, and you see this, school of thought that they're like, hey, you know what? Just pay me my money,
Yes.
give me everything. I'm gonna go figure out
The
the
rest.
rest.
To be honest, like there's pros
And
and cons to both, and I can
yeah,
see why some people. A friend of mine told me about this model. She's married,
okay.
that both her and her husband operate, and I think it's brilliant. Like you get both better best of both worlds. So she works more of the full time, so they can get the
Oh,
benefits,
and
and then
he
he does
does
the
a contract.
contract. So I think that's actually the perfect. But of course, as a single person, you have to pick one or the other. So
Yeah,
I think that's actually a good strategy that I just learned about it recently. I'm like, that's actually really
yeah,
smart.
because it
Yeah,
creates a good balance, right?
balance.
So you
Yeah,
have the benefits because
yeah.
your spouse's benefits will essentially
Should
cover
cover you
you
and your
and
kids
your
if you have
kids,
them. Yeah,
and then you have the other part where you could be a little bit more flexible.
with your earnings.
Yeah, take more as
Mm,
part of your earnings, and then you know make more money that way.
yes.
Okay, so full time for you.
Yeah, full
All
time
right.
for me. Yeah.
Um, teamwork or solo work?
Oh my God, I prefer. I don't know if I should be saying this, but I kind of prefer solo work. And I think it's a Nigerian thing, just because you know how we like the way we're brought up, the way like school life was back there. Where that was another like culture shift too for me. A
Yeah,
lot of our work back then, growing up schooling in Nigeria, was more individualistic, right? You
sure.
put in the effort, you get your A or your
Yeah,
B's,
and
but
sometimes you can come like super last minute.
depending on
I
how
mean,
you
I
study,
was
right?
I was guilty for that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I had a
I'm
brother like that,
like
and he was still like
hundred
get
percent. Like
A
I
plus.
would, a lot of folks back then they would probably see me in school and like,
I'm
I mean,
serious, fella.
yeah, I probably unserious and everything, but when I know exams are coming up, I just go lock myself up. I get all the notes that I miss, then I go,
Go through.
just rack it up real good, go to the exam, blast it up, and then,
That was actually the
you're
term we
coming
say
out with A's
blast.
and everything, right? And it was funny when you mentioned, when you were talking about school and everything, like,
Yeah.
you can't come and just do that here.
No, you
It's
can't.
not,
And
you're
there's
going to
even
fail.
teamwork tests too, or
Yes,
teamwork. There's some projects or assignments where it has to be teamwork because they're trying to. Is now I understand why they were doing that, because they're trying to get you ready for the real world, which is
exactly.
the work world, because you'll be working a lot in teams too, like on projects.
Yeah,
I think you're in projects, so you get what I mean.
yeah,
So I know fully just being like in silo or solo is not all that great too, because you also want to be able to be a good team player, and it's not
Exactly.
everything you can do on your own. Now that you know, if you look at the grand scheme of things, right,
True.
you still need people. But I think in some perspective, it can be good to like do solo in terms of, depending on the other person, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know how sometimes some
And
people can
sometimes you
slack
move
off
faster,
faster.
right? You
Yeah,
deliver faster,
faster.
and then if
When you
you
know you're able to break it down, you can break it down to timelines. You're not factoring in whether something's happening in someone else's personal
yeah,
life, or they have like 20 other things that they're doing, right? And they're not prioritizing what you need them to do.
yeah.
So both of them have advantages, no doubt. Uh,
Especially when you don't have the opportunity to choose your team.
yes, you hit the nail on the
When
head.
anybody gets dumped into that
See,
team and you have to, it's almost like you're doing your work and then you have to
to do
manage some
someone
people
else's
at
work.
that point
Yeah.
to be able to get things going.
Yes.
All right. All right, I'm going to switch to travel a little bit
Yeah.
because, we all traveled before getting to different places where we are.
Yeah.
Um, window seat or aisle seat?
I prefer window seat.
Okay, why?
So window seat because of the views. Sometimes I like to be able to take in the views while we're flying. Second thing is I like to sleep, especially on flights that are longer than 3 hours. It's more comfortable. I'm sure you've experienced this, to
Yeah,
sleep leaning on the window seat, like the window itself, versus if you're on the
on the
aisle. Are
aisle.
you gonna sleep on on the next person, and the person might not
You
be that nice,
probably
or you're gonna
doze
doze
off on
off
your
on the
neighbor.
aisle? Yeah, that's why I said doze off on the neighbor. If it's a nice chap, they might not mind, but some of them are gonna be like,
Oh yeah.
"Hello,
Some of them are pretty, like, dude.
personal space.
Yeah, like, dude.
What's that about?" So yeah, so for me, it's window seats.
All right. And the last one, Airbnb or hotel.
Oh, okay. For
Because
me,
right now that's a
that's a
trend,
strange anyone.
especially with folks
Yeah.
traveling, whether it's for vacation or relocating,
Vacation
and having to do like the first couple of weeks
nights or
or
weeks.
nights. Yeah.
So for me, I'll say hotel.
Okay.
Hotel, two reasons. Most times, a lot more comfortable. You're able to get like honest reviews, especially because they've been around for a long time. Especially like if you're looking at brands and their names. Then the last reason is because I'm a lady.
Yeah.
So from a security perspective, I feel a lot safer in a hotel because
Okay.
they always have like security personnel. Sometimes they have cameras. But with Airbnb, okay, we had some, scary
Some
stories.
interesting
Stories,
stories.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know it can be a lot more affordable
Okay.
sometimes. I don't mind it if I'm doing a group trip,
Yeah.
yeah, but if I'm doing solo, I prefer
Hotels. Yeah.
hotel
No, but
experience. A
you
lot
bring
more
up a
structured, yeah,
really, yeah, you bring up a really important point. I think security most of the times is like,
yeah,
on top of the list,
yeah,
irrespective of where you're going to.
yeah,
So if you know that security, is not where you need it to be, then being in a hotel, 100%. And then
yes,
if you're in a group and you guys, probably hire, you
mm.
know, some security to look after you guys, then makes sense.
Personal mobiles, okay.
Yeah, all right. So the last one before we switch gears again,
Okay,
'cause I know this last one, a lot of folks have like different opinions about it, but
okay,
I'm interested to hear yours.
yeah.
Calls or text?
Oh my God. I think it has changed over the years. Oh, I don't know if I have to pick one right now,
You
right?
gotta pick one. You're thinking.
Okay. Okay, so for now, I'll just say calls just because I have to. But I feel like there are moments where like I don't know if you've had some of all those long days at work and you just come back and you're like, I don't even know if I have the strength to talk.
Yep.
And then a text message
No,
could come in
it
really handy
happens.
at
It
that point.
happens to
But
me.
other than that, like when in terms of connection and like you getting off the vibe of the other person,
Yep.
I feel like 100% calls are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, the body language, the rapport.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Especially
text
right now with video
messages,
calls
things
and
get,
everything
yeah,
for
lost in translation. Yeah,
true.
people can feel like that's so short on a text, but it's just that maybe they're not just a texter,
Yeah.
right? And yeah,
And
so I feel
sometimes the
like
possibility of
standing
misunderstanding
is higher,
certain things, right?
even with
With
emails.
text as well.
So true.
But honestly, for me, like during the week, I prefer text.
So you get where I'm coming from.
And during the weekend, I prefer
Oh,
calls.
that's what I
So
was telling you. It depends on where you are in life too.
yeah,
Like I remember when we used to be so young. I'm sure you're Nigerian, right?
Yeah.
Remember those MTN overnight calls?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that were free. And I was talking for
I
Africans. They would
made
say,
I,
I will
I
talk
made
on the
I made a
phone for
couple
like
of it
three
back
hours,
then.
4 hours, and I'm
I
not
think I
tired.
think for most of the guys then, for most of the guys that know what I'm talking about, if you were trying to date a girl and she just wasn't, responding, those midnight calls,
Mhm.
that's the best time to like, just bring all
Bring
your
down the
bring all your
walls.
vibes and get it going. So I did make a lot of those, I'm not gonna lie. So
Okay, okay. So I'm glad you know about it. So yeah, you
yeah.
definitely made a lot of them. It sounds like.
I mean, sometimes you just have to pass your message across. And
Yes,
you don't want to pass
yes.
it across in an expensive way.
It was a cheap way for sure. But it was a good time. Like especially like super young then. Like
Yeah,
it was just like spending that time with the people, connecting
connecting with
essentially.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, HR,
yeah.
right? Because I know for a lot of folks who have applied for jobs here, um, that's like the first sort of screening that they get to go
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
Um, you know, that HR person picks up your resume, looks at the job description, does this person actually have the skills or not? Right now, I've heard about like different tools that you guys use
mm-hmm.
to probably screen like thousands of resumes ahead of
Yeah.
time
Applicant
before.
tracking system, the
Right.
ATS.
Yeah. So, um, and right now as well, like this is the age of AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of folks, get to use AI for so many different things.
Yes.
Um, I had a guest here on the podcast where he actually developed a tool that it could apply for jobs for you once you set it
Mm,
up,
yeah.
right? You set it up, you give it a resume, it starts applying for different jobs for you. Now, for someone who's just getting in,
Yes.
someone who just landed, and is probably not used to how things work,
Yeah.
what are some tips that you can share with that person when it comes to um, maybe how they get to put their resume together? For me, I know I had to do an overhaul of my
Same
resume
here.
when I came, but I just want you to speak directly to that person.
Okay.
um, Give them some tips that
Mm-hmm.
will help them navigate those first couple of months when they just come in and they're just like, you know what, I want to be able to get my first job.
Okay.
um, I'm tired of doing a survival job, which most people get stuck with for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but they're just looking for, they might not have access to an HR person directly that could share some valuable tips with them. But I
Okay.
just want you to speak directly to that person.
Okay, yeah, sure, I can do that. And then I'm just also going to draw a little bit from my experience personally and then HR experience as well. So if you're that person there who has just landed, first of all, know that, kudos to you. You're courageous to have made this trip because relocating is not an easy feat, is what I'm really finding. I know sometimes we just call it JAKPA and it feels like, it feels a little bit like we're taking it very lightly. So kudos to you on making that really big journey to come to Canada. But what I will first of all say is if you get, let's say you were in a really high paying job in your home country, keep in mind that you might not land that very great job that you were at right away, right? Just have that at the back of your head. Like he mentioned a little bit of survival job. You might have to get that survival job first just to kind of keep the lights on, like they say, and pay bills because bills here don't wait for anyone. But on the flip side, you might actually really get a great job right off the top, right off the bat. I'm not going to knock that off as well. But another advice I want to give resume wise, the first thing is there's a way we write our resumes back in our home countries. I'm going to speak particularly for Nigeria. There's a lot of irrelevant things that we have in our resumes that need to be taken out or scrapped out. Like I remember, for instance, my own personal experience. I had a lot of, especially because I didn't work a lot when I was in Nigeria. My resume had a lot of like my age, my local government area. You don't need all of that here. They don't need that information. And if anything, it could even hamper your chances because it can now make them have like want to be biased against you. So obviously, as you know, some people could be biased in terms of like age. They feel like maybe you're too young, you're too old. So you don't want to give them that ammunition, if that makes sense. So take out all of those irrelevant things. They are not necessary, or your gender, not necessary. So just I would say real resume. We don't call it CV as well here. I know back home. So don't say take my CV. You're gonna be like, here's my
This
resume.
is my curriculum vitae.
Vitae. I don't not even how it's pronounced. So a good resume should be about between 2 pages, like depending on your experience. So from 1 to 3 pages long. Sweet spots is 2 pages long, and the top first half of your resume is the prime real estate. So you should have your name obviously in bold, your telephone number, and location. And location wise, I just mean it can just be like Alberta, like Calgary, Alberta. You don't need to put your whole address there because that's a security, that could be a security risk. And so you summarize your professional summary using really powerful words about your profession, your years of experience, the different industries you've worked at, if that's applicable to you. And then you can go on to your most recent job experience, highlight it in a powerful light, and make sure you're including an outline of your highest like accomplishments as well in that role. We don't just need you to just put regular information like, oh, I am a problem solver. Show us how you're a problem solver. I pay attention to details. Please don't write that there. Like, give an example of a project you worked on that captures that you are actually a detail oriented person. So those are some of the points I'll mention. And then obviously, if you have education like a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, include all of that there. But don't put the year where you completed that degree, because that could also be another way for them to kind of like place you, like age wise and stuff like that. And like I said
Yeah,
earlier, that could lead to some kind of
I think the
bias.
bias.
So you want to reduce that as well. What else would I say now? When you're also going into an interview, hopefully your resume is no longer a problem. Like, one other thing I want to note, if you're applying to a lot of jobs, let's say 50, 100 jobs, and you've not gotten any call back, most likely your resume is the problem. So you want to revamp it, or speak to someone in Canada who's been here longer, who's maybe in your line of work, so they can review it for you. And then if you finally get that interview, I would say put a lot of work into preparing for that interview, especially if it's something you want. Research the company thoroughly, research what they do, how they make money, if possible, look at their financial reports, research the interviewers you're going to meet, because building rapport, what some people don't talk about enough, is building rapport with your interviewers in an interview is a very big part, a very big aspect of you getting a job, aside you knowing your stuff. Because what I find with Canadians is that they love to work with people that they like,
Yeah.
likability. They even have some interviews they call the fit interview to see if you're a cultural fit. So invest time into preparing for that interview. And when you have that interview, give it your best shot, be confident. I find that sometimes some immigrants struggle with that. There's the whole thing of, am I good enough? Because sometimes, let's be real. Sometimes it can take a long time before you get like a shot at an interview you really want. And by that time, maybe your confidence is low because of maybe some other jobs you have had to do. But don't let that, even if it means I think sometimes I find a way to kind of boost my spirit when I have an interview, because we all go through it.
Yeah.
Even if it's playing like a song that really like uplifts your spirit, or doing like a power pose before your interview, and try to go early for the interview. I had a bad experience where I think I lost a job because of that. I'm someone that likes to go somewhere on time. I know some people might say, "Oh, African time." No, I was planning to go there on time, and but it was a place that was not close to where I lived, so I had to take trains, buses, and I didn't calculate all of that in the time. And I got there, I think, about 15 minutes late, and I think that impression obviously just spoiled the whole thing.
Yeah.
Never, I learned the hard way that way, and it never happened again. So especially now, I think a lot of interviews are done online for the most part. So please log in on time, have your sound checked, your camera checked, your background, professional, and
Yeah,
give it your
because
best, and
technology
good
can
luck.
fail at any point in
Yes,
time.
that's actually
You know,
happened,
I think for me, I've had
even in my
interviews
experience.
where,
Yeah.
I'm literally leaving it to that last five
Yes.
minutes,
Yeah.
and then you try to log in. Maybe in your company, you're probably using, let's say you're using Teams,
Yes.
and then you just realize that the interview is on Zoom, and
Okay.
you probably don't have Zoom downloaded
Yet.
on your
Your
machine yet.
system.
Yeah. And then it's taking a sweet time to download. And then you have to join the interview at that point in time.
Yes.
And before you know it, is already like 1 minute into
The
your interview
interview.
starting, which is not a good
Not a
first
good look.
impression.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. Even it's actually better. What I also noticed Canadian culture as well. If you're on time, you're late. I'm
Yeah.
sure you probably know this. So that if you have an interview for 12 o'clock, you should be logging in at 11, at worst 11:55 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
have to be the one waiting for them,
yeah, because we're
not.
looking for something,
Yeah.
like in Nigerian term. Okay, you're the one looking
You're
for
the one looking for something.
something.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, so that will be my advice, and keep going. You get there. The first couple of years sometimes is a struggle, but if you persevere and you don't give up, there's light at the end of the tunnel for
Sure.
sure.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
really, really appreciate that. And,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that. Because I know a lot of folks are, folks who are just landing, or probably because we try to look at people in different parts of their journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? For someone who's thinking about immigrating, for
Mm-hmm.
someone who just landed,
Yes.
and for someone who is already, you know, settled in,
Okay.
and is probably figuring out, okay, I'm here, what next, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
um, another thing I've heard is folks who have probably struggled with, those survival jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and transitioning from survival jobs to the jobs that they really
What?
want to be at. Sometimes they might have some transferable skills from where they're coming from, um, but sometimes they also face situations where Canadian experience gets to be used as an excuse.
What's an
So,
excuse? I love that.
um, I want you to speak to someone who is in that place, who is struggling to transition from
Mm.
working a survival job to actually getting that dream job that they want to get.
Mm.
Um, for some people, they've probably gotten a few interviews, which means, okay, the resume
Getting
there's something
traction.
working about the resume,
Yeah.
right? But they're probably not getting any callbacks
Okay.
after the interview. And, you know, someone's probably at that phase where they're like, you know what, maybe this survival job is my destiny
In
in
Canada, no,
in
survival
US
job in
or
Canada.
Canada.
It's not your destiny,
But
please.
but yeah, I want you to, like, encourage someone who's already at that phase,
Yeah.
um and who has probably tried a few things,
Yeah.
and maybe from your experience, or relating with other people who have had to navigate it,
Hmm.
anything that you can share with our viewers.
Yeah, I would say it can be hard for sure. And let me not say we've all been. I've been there. I think one of my first couple of jobs were actually survival jobs. I think I mentioned a little bit about call center a little
Yeah,
when I
the
first
call
came
center one.
in. But even before then, I had a job in my school where I worked in Subway. So kind of like
Oh,
Subway,
yep,
the sandwich
yep.
place. So
I
that's
love Subway, by the way. I
yeah, I'm glad you do. So I worked there for, although I didn't last too long because I knew I had an exit plan. I think I was just there a couple of months. So I worked as a cashier, and you know how those kind of places are. There's always lean operations. So you also work on the sandwiches, and you. So yeah, I learned a lot about making sandwiches. Let's just say
Oh,
the
I'm
Canadian
pretty sure your sandwich is good right now. Thanks to
sandwich
Subway.
skills, sandwich skills for sure. So I did that, but I knew that that was not going to be my be all end all,
Yeah.
right? So how did I even get that job? Was well, that's one good thing with school, right? We had job fairs that would happen in school, the campus. I think during maybe mid semester or end of the year. So companies will come by and all of that. So okay, they didn't actually come to that fair, but because I was schooled in the school, I think I went there to do something, some paperwork. You know how it is as a student. And then I saw a sign in front of their store right in our cafeteria that they were hiring. To
Mm.
tell you how desperate I was then. I think I had just finished school, or just about rounding up, and my parents gave me that talk.
Now
You know,
that school's over. I hope you know. You
Yeah.
need to you need to be on your own now and take care of things.
Wow. I think you were now living. You were in that call.
I was there.
So I, saw the sign, and before that, I thrown out my resume. Of course, as a newcomer, trying my hands and everything. Nobody was responding. It was so I, decided to walk in because I felt like, walking in is actually very that's even something I was just saying in passing. But walking into a place that's hiring
Yeah,
would definitely make you stand out. I know in this generation of applying online is like it seems like the only way right now because the whole world is digital. I know some companies will still tell you to apply online, but there's something to be said about actually working in it. Shows that you are driven, like you came there for something, like
yeah.
you're purposeful, you're a hard worker, like you think outside the box. So I walked in and then I told them that I'm willing to, even though they look at my resume like, oh, are you sure you really want to be? I was like, yes, da, 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 da. Talk to, I think the manager was working that day. And then they were like, okay, they will call me. And eventually I had the interview. Of course, I got the job. But the reason I started with that story is from that job was how I got like my very next job that was one of like I wouldn't say it was my dream job, but it was like a
Oh,
corporate job from there, and it
interesting.
was in the college. So what had happened was when I and take advantage of every opportunity and also just give your best. Like I try to be excellent in whatever I do as well. So while I was in school, there was a time we had a chance to. Not everybody knew about this because not everybody was always reading the website. My college had something called the Global Citizenship Learning thing. So the idea was you travel, like if you were selected, you to qualify, you had to write an essay of why you
Okay.
really felt like you wanted to do it. So a couple of months before, I had a friend who did it, and she went to I think some European countries, and I asked that question. I was like, "Oh, how did this come up?" She was like, "Yeah, it's one of the. It comes up on our website. Check this portion and da da da." And I did my research, and I saw they were doing it. I think every year. So I was like, targeted it. I was like, "Yeah, next year definitely gonna be on that list." So I applied for it when it came my time the next year, and I got selected. And in my own time, I think we went to Jamaica. We were in Jamaica for
Oh,
almost 2 weeks.
nice.
Yeah. So the idea,
Sponsored, like
so was
full
sponsor, so full
sponsorship.
for all expense paid trip. So
Interesting.
the idea was, how travel is education,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that's
There's a lot
so
of learning and
learning you get
exposure.
exposure.
Yeah,
So and then we also gave back. So it was a partnership between my school and a not-for-profit organization. So they came together
nice.
and they are the ones that sponsored it. So they sponsored our airline ticket, the visa, like no, the visa you have to take care of it yourself because they have some local students who can go without.
Yeah,
But every other thing was they covered it in the transportation in Jamaica. But we also like when I said we gave back, we went to like a summer school in Jamaica. Like most of the days we'll go there and teach like after school activities to them.
that's
So that
really
was our way
nice.
of like giving
And that
back
was like
for
your second.
was my second program. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, I
that's
know
really
anything I
good.
didn't do right in the first. Yeah. So
You
kind
just
of
matched it up in mid of doing the second one.
exactly.
I mean, the first year
It's
there's
like a
usually a lot
learning
of learning,
curve. Yeah, exactly.
huge learning curve during the first year,
Yeah.
and
Trying to get to
but
understand the system,
exactly,
meeting people.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a learning curve. So I did that. And then while I was there, because the school would send a representative, I think like a member of their staff, the not for profit, I think they had two each would send. So we had those people like kind of like chaperones, for lack of a
mm,
better term. But they oversaw us, made sure we landed on time, make sure we entered the bus, make
yeah,
sure we went. So while I was there, I didn't know that's one key thing. People are watching you. Like whether you think they're not, they are.
yeah. There's always
So
someone who's watching.
yeah. So fast forward, that was one of my big lessons in Canada. Like networking is key, but people are watching you. So while I was doing that subway job, the woman comes around, like one of the chaperones. She was like a head of records or something in the college at the time. So she comes around and I serve her, like, give her an order. And she's like, I remember you, like obviously she remembered me,
Yeah,
and she's like, so we talk, and she's like, so what are you doing now? And then I think I followed her because it was a cafeteria. Then I followed her out. She was like, oh, you have a few minutes? And then we got talking for a bit, and she was like, oh, are you done school now? Are you just I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like my certificates or my results are out. I'm just waiting for my certificate.
yeah.
I'm just doing this in the meantime. Or I'm looking for opportunities. I just put it out there. And she's like, okay, okay. And she just nods her head, and she's like, oh, let her go back to her office. And you won't believe this. Um, I think a week after,
Wow.
she sends me an email or calls me. I think it was she calls me first and she's like, "There's this contract opportunity that's about to come up in the college. You know how when new students are about to resume, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like admission, enrollment things that are going on." and then you need more hands that time. And she was just like, it's just contract opportunity. I think it's just like 2 months. Like, are you sure? Will you be interested? I wasn't too sure. I just thought I should. I was like, say no more, right?
I got
What
you.
do I need to like? Is there? Do I need to come to the office right
Yeah,
now, or do you? She's like, no, no worries. I will send you an email, confirm like the offer,
the
confirm the
details.
details, break down the timetable of your schedule. I'm like, wait, is this for real? And then we hung up, and I'm like, thankfully, she didn't waste time. I think the next 1 hour, 2 hours, she sent me some
Oh
paperwork,
wow.
just like the offer letter for like the contract, and then the schedule, the campus
Oh,
I was supposed to like, because they had 4 campuses.
that's really good
And I
because
was like, wow, so networking is key.
networking. Yeah,
And aside networking, like, be good whatever you're doing, like, because you never can tell. Like that one, I never would have my wildest dream thought that that lady,
will be the
some,
person to help you get.
yeah,
Yeah,
get like
and
a
I think
safe fresh
a
break.
lot of folks,
Yeah.
you know, like here the power of referrals.
Yes.
You're trying to get into a company,
Mm.
someone that works in the company, that person is able to like stand for you when you
Mm.
apply. If
Yeah.
there's always going to be, I think a lot of companies have that where they'll probably ask you
Oh,
like who.
employee referral
Yeah,
program. Yes, they
yeah.
do.
So that usually helps people a lot because it's like someone in there vetting for you, to say, hey, I know this person, I know their, the job, their work etiquette or something, and they can do the job.
Mm.
Um, I know back from like the different countries where folks are coming from,
Mm.
there are different names that we call it. It's either you have connection
Connections.
or um, you know, a thing.
Nipple baby. There's another one that's been
What?
trending on nipple baby.
Nipple baby.
You know,
Or
like from
if
nepotism.
yeah. So but here it's still there, but it just comes in a well packaged name called referrals. So
Yes.
but there isn't, some places I think is quite fair and balanced. Some other places I think, there's still influence one way or the other for folks getting in people that they feel like, hey, this is a referral and I can call this shot, I can make that decision, and I can get that person in.
Yeah, yeah.
So network is very important. And as for referrals, a lot of people who are working in these different companies, they're not gonna, the referrals, they don't take it as a bonus check at the end of the year. um, a lot of people that I don't know, but they probably know we have like mutual folks,
Yeah.
they reach out to me for referrals where I work, and I'm always ready to support. I just want to make sure I see what you're doing first of all,
Yes.
because I don't want to refer someone who's going to go screw things up.
Yes.
So
And it spoils the chances for the next person.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, if you're ever referred by anybody,
Mm-hmm.
work times two to make sure that you don't go screw things up, because you're not only screwing your chances, you're screwing chances for other people as well who would
Yes.
have really benefited
Benefited
from
from
that.
it. Yes.
You
That's
know.
so true.
So one thing I wanted to touch on, because I think a lot of organizations right now leverage the STAR technique
Oh
for
yeah, for interviews.
interviews.
Yes.
Is that something which is general right now, or do different companies just have like a different approach, or is that a general approach that you would say as an HR professional that you've seen, across like different interviews? Is it organization specific, or is it really more different organizations could leverage part of it but still go with their own flow? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll say it's like it's not. I don't think every single organization operates that way, but I would say it's like a best practice kind of
Okay.
approach, right? Like well, maybe not say world standard, but I know in Canada, for the most part, a lot of companies I've worked at do appreciate that framework of
Yeah.
answering your question. But I know some of them who differ, and also it depends on the type of role. Like, let's face it, like you're interviewing for some of the survival jobs.
Oh no, of
It's
course. There's no star for that.
exactly right. But when
Yeah.
it starts becoming like much more professional, like you're going higher, you're trying to get that, like you say, big boy, big girl job.
Yeah.
I'll say yes, more of the star model. But I've even seen some companies go a step further where they say star E. So for people who don't know what star is, it's just an acronym that stands for like situation that you've experienced, the tax that you were taxed, the action that you took, and then the results, right? And then, like I said, I've seen another company where they've added an E, and basically it's like it stands for evaluation. So
Oh,
it's kind of like
interesting.
after you did all of that, what were like your lessons learned or your like takeaways kind of thing?
Oh, so they
Yeah.
want you to reassess that
Like
situation and
reflect
then reflect and share that with
with
them.
them too.
But that's huge. That's
Yes.
huge. I think for those who have not experienced that, you just might run into it during your next interview. So, thanks to Amara for bringing that up and sharing it with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Amara, we have a tradition on the podcast.
Oh, really? I love
Yes.
traditions. What's this one? Do I
And
get a private jet?
that you might be getting a private jet at some point when we
Okay.
hit 10 million subscribers.
Yeah, it's coming. I'm
It's
praying for
coming.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
um we have a tradition on the podcast where the previous guest leaves a question for the next guest,
Mm-hmm.
and fortunately I don't get to see the question
Okay.
until you're seated right here
Okay.
and having this chat.
Okay.
So this is our our JAKPA Stories.
Jotter or
Yeah,
workbook.
you can, yeah, open it up and then
Okay.
go to the very last question that you
Okay.
see there.
Oh, I think there's one on
Yeah,
the second
then you
page.
can read it out and then answer the question.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's actually a beautiful question. And that's why I was like, oh, wow. It kind of resonates with me too. So I'm like,
Okay.
what are the odds? So the question goes like this. It says, what does being authentic mean to you?
Hmm, that's a good
Deep.
one.
Yeah.
And that's quite deep.
It's quite deep. hmm. Person who asked this question. Oh, okay. I think generally, like to me as well, it means like being your true self, right?
Okay.
Without any reservations. Being, who God created you, because I'm Christian, by the way,
Yeah.
who God created you to be in every situation, right? So it's kind of is a thought I've been dealing with lately because I know when I first started my career, and I'm sure you can relate as well in Canada, especially the kind of space I work in too. There's this whole thing of I'm sure you've heard it where it's like be authentic but don't be too authentic, right?
Yep.
Especially in the workplace and the whole talk of code switching and
Yeah.
all of that. So I think authenticity, in a nutshell, is being your full self, knowing that you're enough in every facet of life that you come across, be it in your home front, be it in the workplace,
Yeah.
be it in the marketplace, be it in business, and like just really shining through in that in your essence. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Like, just be yourself. For me, I would say be unapologetic about
Yes, I
who
love
you
it.
are. And
Yes.
I
And
think
the world
first
may
off,
adjust, right? Because I
exactly.
feel like your uniqueness is what's your superpower, what sets you apart.
That's
Because
true.
a lot of us trying to conform, and to be honest, I don't even know how if it really helps us. Like I would say my career really started picking up, I think when I started really being more courageous. I don't
Yeah.
know if it happened to you as well. And then another thing with career, some other like my career I would say picked up a lot more when I moved. So sometimes location, I know we're not talking about
Yeah.
content, but I just wanted to add this here. Sometimes the location you are, some locations favor you. I think that's the whole origin of this podcast, right? The jackpot
Oh
thing,
yeah,
right?
that's what it
Yeah,
is.
that's it kind of goes back, I guess, full circle. So sometimes you could even relocate to a country. I think what I want to add there is the starting place, you're not a tree. Like let's say you landed in Nova Scotia, I'm just calling random provinces, right? And you feel like it's not working out for you, or you're not getting that big break. You can explore other places. You can
Yeah.
try Alberta. You can try Vancouver. You can like BC. You can even go to Yukon. I've seen some people who are like making
Yeah.
it great in like some of those places, Yukon, Nunavut,
Yep.
because sometimes success could actually be location specific. I believe it just because I can resonate with that. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to add that as well.
I appreciate that. Like, don't feel like you're stuck in a particular
Don't box
location.
yourself
Yeah,
in.
because there's certain locations you go to and things just pick up,
Yes.
and you start wondering. You're like, oh, I wish I came
I'm
here
here earlier.
sooner.
That's how I feel.
All right.
Yeah.
So now is your turn. You're gonna leave a question for the next guest.
Okay. I have to do it right now.
Yeah, you can do it right now. Take
Okay.
take your time.
Yeah, because I want to give a really good question to the next person, kind of like the one that the person gave me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can take your time
Fine.
and put in
Okay.
a question. Good. So I'm sure you're going to be watching to see how whoever it is um,
Yes.
answers the question as well.
I will.
Hopefully, the person doesn't struggle too much.
Not something they can answer.
Okay. Okay. So, um, when you think about someone who is about embarking on that immigration sort of journey,
Mhm.
what's one piece of advice that you can give that person that, you know, I don't want to limit it to just what you're doing right now as an HR professional,
Yeah.
but if you want to go that way, fantastic. But for someone who is thinking about immigrating, for someone who has probably just landed and trying to figure out what, this new country or this new society looks like, or how to be successful, um, what are some things from your experience that you can speak to that person that would just encourage that person through the phases that they have ahead of them?
So what are some things I can speak to them? Like, so basically, like
Like
encourage,
advise them.
advise
Yeah.
them. Okay. It's a deep question too. Um, so coming into a new country is I kind of like what we've been saying so far. It's not usually easy. Like it takes a bit of time before you get to being stabilized or you adapt and adjust. But I think one thing I would say is don't give up. Like there are gonna be some moments where you're tired. Sometimes you even want to cry. Like it's okay. Cry, sleep on it, pray about it, and keep pushing. So I'll say, and don't go at this life alone. I think some of the things reflecting back now, I'll say, is community is really important, and it actually helps you go through some of those tough times. So as soon as you can come in, I would say try and be part of a community, not just any community. Because what I also find with when you relocate, the community the meet, so the first set of people you meet can also affect the way you see yourself and can also limit or amplify you, or like I'm sure you know what I mean. Like the first set of people, I think
Yep.
you might have heard this, first set of people you meet can either maybe make you think like your dreams are too big. They could come, you could meet some people when you first come in and say, oh, you can only do survival job this country, especially when I
Very
came.
true.
This country is very hard, they're very, there's a glass ceiling, you can never make it. And if you let those voices really come into your head and you start to absorb it, start to believe it can actually be your reality. I
True.
remember, and I'm saying this from experience, I think where I have something, some Nigerian sisters say, I have a little bit of stubbornness in me, which is good because when I heard some of those things, I was like, I can't have all this. I know how much I spent, even though I know you said I had a soft landing, but I'm an Igbo girl, so I still was the one paying the school fees, even though parents would transfer the money to me, and I'm like, I could have a couple of houses by now,
Yeah.
So I was like, with all of those education, I don't think it can go to waste. I'm not going to waste my father's school fees on my head. So there were moments where I remember some people had referred me to some of those survival jobs. I know people might not believe right now, but I remember going to one of the warehouses
But you
and
had a warehouse experience as well.
yeah, yeah, that's so
No, I
soft.
take some of the softness
Take
back.
it back. Take it back. I didn't last long though. But anyways, I kind of went to orientation and I remember one of the ladies there, I think she was from my home country, and she was supposed to like show us around, like as part of the onboarding experience. And I remember her telling me, taking me aside and being like, my sister, like, don't take this job. Or I think she said something like, even if you're on the job, don't take it for too long because then you get stuck here.
True.
So in as much as she was there, like she had made that mistake, and I guess she was trying to like help me out. But in my head, I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna cope here." you don't
Can't
even, you
survive
don't
here.
you don't even need to tell me twice. So having that, like, having that goal for yourself of where you want to be. Like, if survival job is the kind of job that you feel like you're brought to this life to do, oh well and good. But if you have bigger dreams for yourself, I would say surround yourself with great people.
Yeah,
Be open-minded as well. I think say something I learned late as well. Part of my journey was, I think it's easier to lean on people who you feel like look like you, but sometimes be open-minded. You never know, your blessings could actually come from people who don't look like you, who don't speak like you, who don't talk like you, who don't walk like you. So be
true.
open-minded, and keep hope alive. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
that'll
I
be
like
it.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing that.
yeah, you're
Because,
welcome.
I remember my own experience as well. After landing in Vancouver,
Yeah.
and I had that, a friend who had been there prior, like 10 years
Hmm.
previously, and he was into construction and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, my background, my bachelor's was in civil engineering.
Oh, okay.
So
So this is
naturally I would have wanted to go into, like
around.
construction or whatever.
Mm.
But because I know the winter in Canada, I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to find myself doing anything outside.
Yes.
I want to be able to work from
Yeah.
home. I want to be able to work in an office, and I
Mm.
want to be able to have the flexibility of doing that remotely. So
Mm.
when I started applying for project manager roles back then, and we just got talking and he heard about it, he was like, "What are you doing? Like, you think me, I've been here for like almost 10 years. I've never even thought of applying for those kind of
Before.
roles. Like, come on, start from here. This
Bottom,
is,
yeah.
yeah, start
And
from here and
build.
then you start growing up." And I heard it. It came in through this ear. It came out through
Good
the other
job.
ear.
Good job.
And I just went back. I started applying for, the
Yeah.
project manager roles. Um, like barely when I started with the first survival job, which was a marketing job,
Yeah.
rugged
Oh,
marketing.
was it the door-to-door one?
It
I know a
was
lot of
door
people
to
start.
door, rugged marketing. But I tell
Those
you,
people
I
get
kid you
people.
not, I learned a whole lot from that job.
Yeah.
It made me be able to approach anybody and start a
Okay.
conversation with that person.
So
But I
true.
did that for just 3 weeks
Mm.
before getting my first project manager role. And then from there, it was just, upwards and
Yeah.
onwards,
It's awesome.
right? So I say all of this to just support what you
Mm-hmm.
said, because the people you connect with, they could either make your star shine brighter or they can try to dim your lights. But
Okay.
it's important to believe in yourself. Look for people that speak the language that you're speaking
Mm.
or that are already where you want to be at, and connect with those people. Learn from them what they did to get to where they are. There's nothing, if you go apply and do the same thing, you're going to find yourself getting those same results.
Yeah. Just want to add what you just said with the same results. I'm connecting with people. My brother used to say this: success leaves clues. So,
Mm,
like you said,
I love that.
if you reach out to someone who's done it, most times there's usually a blueprint.
Yes.
And if you
Yes.
replicate it a couple of times, most times you
I
land on
love
something
that.
great. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna pick that up and
Okay, you
keep
can
it
send me
keep it
my
close
check.
to me. Success leaves clues,
Mm,
and that is so true and so applicable in a
yeah,
lot of things that we do in life.
yeah,
Amara Onoha, thank you so much
yeah. You're
for being on
welcome.
JAKPA Stories. One last question before I let you go.
Yes.
Complete this sentence.
Okay.
To me, JAKPA means.
A great and happy life.
I like that. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. You're welcome.
Thanks, Amara. Thank you. Really nice chatting with you.
Same
And
here.
we're going to be connecting with you again
Okay.
in the next couple of weeks,
Okay.
because we're starting something new in JAKPA Stories, which is
All
going to
right.
have, a lot more people. And I think
Oh, nice.
with your expertise in human resources, I think you're going to bring a lot of value to
All
that.
right. No, I'll be happy to come back.
All
It's been a
right.
pleasure so far. So,
Thank you once again.
same here.